Hi, my name is Nomalangam Charlie Moses, and I am the founder of the M3 Balance System, a system for women to balance marriage, motherhood, and money making. I'm here with Shaquita Graham, who is the founder of Loving the Black Man. And as a businesswoman, she's also the founder of atechco.com, which is a platform that children can learn from and use technology to learn. How are you doing today, Shaquita?
I'm doing really good, Norma. How about you?
I'm not complaining at all. I'm having an excellent day. So again, we were having a chat and we thought it would be great to do a segment for Your Black Women. Again, Your Black Women is where Black women come together and keep it real. And we discuss interesting topics. So a topic today is, can you build the Black community and reject marriage and family? And I want to share a little bit about how this question came up, and the discussion, of course, came up. I've seen a lot of women who are in the space of, they're conscious, they're pro-Black, they talk about building, Black businesses, about building our own institutions, and really coming off of what we like to call the plantation or the corporate plantation, and building our own communities and building up Black men and building up Black women. And then the contrasting thing or the contradicting thing is then when you talk about relationships and marriage and family, then they are entirely against marriage, or they say they're not, but they're saying they won't do it. And they are very judgmental of people who do it, and they say, well, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? Or I don't have to do that, and how dare you ask me why I don't want to do that? I don't have to do that. It's my choice not to do that. And it gets a little bit ugly. In the sense that they really devalue the institution, and I hate to use the word institution, but they devalue marriage or minimize it, and then on the other hand say that they're all about building the Black community. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, people have these ideas of what marriage is and what it should be. And it's really about making a commitment to someone. And I think that it should go, for me, it needed to go as far as a legal commitment and a spiritual commitment. And it ties into building the Black nation or the Black community or the Black family, because building is all about stability. I mean, if you're building something, you need stable materials to build it from. And so, when you have two people with different strengths and different weaknesses balancing each other out, it can tend to create stability. And then when you're talking about building a nation or a family, that already includes children. And many times it's much easier to balance family life with children with, a man and a woman in the household working together, so that they can see both sides of that equation to give them what they need. So I definitely think that marriage is synonymous with building the Black community and the Black nation.
Absolutely. I think it's, at least if you're going to say that there are pillars to a community, is definitely one of the strong ones, and maybe the most strong one. I think that, just as we talk about financial independence as individuals, we should talk about financial independence collectively. And one of the ways that you build that is with a partner who has committed to be with you forever, has committed to raising children with you forever, and you support, encourage, and build each other up. That's how I look at it. So I do find that it is a really big contradiction to say that you really believe in the Black community, you want to build it, you love Black people, and then on the other hand, it's no, don't ask me that, and no, that's not useful, or no, that's outdated, or no, that's not a good idea. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I thought, it's funny because you and I have similar thoughts about it, so you may not be able to answer the question in terms of how can you feel that you want to build a Black community, and then on the other hand feel that you can devalue or reject marriage and family. But again, I'll ask what is almost an unfair question and say, why do you think that happens? Why would one person say, I want to build the Black community, I want to be part of that, and then on the other hand reject one of the very strong pillars of building the Black community, which is marriage and family?
Well, when I was younger, before I got married, when I'm talking about, I'm saying I'm still young, but at the age of like 19, I did not want to get married. And the reason why I didn't is because I did not trust the idea that a person would commit truly, that I could trust a person to commit to me and be monogamous. And I just didn't want to go through the heartbreak, in a sense, that I thought was impending. But maturity, and this is where it ties into the Black community or the Black nation, is maturity lets you know that you begin to accept real responsibilities. So if you're going to build a nation, you have to have diplomats. You have to have people who stand for something, that can carry out a mission, that can be responsible, level-headed, and practical. And when you have that, then you can have marriage. But sometimes people are not ready to step into that zone, even though they like the idea of the Black nation and the Black family. But, with what they say, to whom much is given, much is required. So things are going to be required of you in this Black nation, in this Black community. Things are going to be required of you, and many times we're not ready to deal with those things that relate to building a relationship, going through difficult times together. A relationship is built on the hard times. After you go through a certain thing with a person, you will have no qualms about trusting them. But when everything is good, you're really not sure. If something bad happens, or if they find out this about you, if they're going to be there. A lot of people are not really ready to open up to that. And again, that's why I started the platform lovingtheblackman.com, because a lot of times we as Black men and Black women, we have distorted views of one another. The main propaganda that has been used to suppress the Black community or oppress the Black community is this notion of bickering amongst one another to divide, instead of these two strong entities coming together, being powerful, so that they can look at the enemy and be effective at destroying anything that's trying to oppress the community. So that's why I think people don't do it or feel afraid.
So how then do you answer, there was a segment that came up where I don't think I know, Oprah was talking to Shonda Rhimes, who of course is a prolific writer and television person in the background, in the back scenes, and they both talked about, I don't think I need marriage, and a lot of Black women identified with that, and they said, and Shonda Rhimes goes as far as saying, actually, I am a woman and I do want children, but I just don't want the man, or at least not a husband. Maybe part-time, like a boyfriend or something, but not a fully committed, integrated life. And I want to raise children, but I don't want to do it with a husband. So then their stance is, I can actually have a family. It just doesn't have to look the way that you say it should. And me being a woman who's been married, I've been married for over 10 years, I look at a family as a man and a woman and their children. That's the family. And then, of course, it's extended by the grandparents, aunts, uncles, and so forth. But the nucleus is that man and that woman. And then comes the children. So what do you say to people who say, we are a family, just not the way you narrowly define it?
Well, I say good luck with that. No, I'm just kidding. I say I don't try to make people believe that they should live the way that I live, and I don't think that everybody has to live the same way. But I do look at what's around me and the history of civilization and what's worked and what hasn't worked. And I think that, first of all, I believe that God created man and woman, and I believe that he created them to fit together. I feel like he made them to complement each other. So for the most part, I think that again, I try to go with best practices in business, in life. I had a period of my life when I did a lot of risk. And then I started saying, hey, wait a minute, let me just kind of think through these things and find out what best practices are, so to speak. So for me, that is what works. Now, hey, I don't know what Oprah's life is like, and I don't know what Shonda Rhimes' life is like, but there's certainly people who, there's people who take vows of celibacy. So, they say they were doing that in the Catholic Church, but we find out something else was happening.
Right. That they were molesting little boys.
Right. And so Janet Jackson has said she wasn't married for a long time, and we come to find out she has been married for a long time. So it's hard for me to really comment and take my life's instructions from people who I don't really know how they're living. So I don't want to critique them on that, but I can just say for me, I've considered all of those thoughts, and I've lived, I have lived them out to an extent to where I felt like for me to have what I wanted, and for me, when I look at creating a Black nation and a Black community, I definitely want to go into a community with families, with mothers and fathers working together. That to me sounds like a good community. So,
right.
That's me.
And the other thing that we have to consider is what is the best environment for a child to grow up in? And, the counter argument is always, well, some people may be married, but the marriage's all messed up, and it still messes up the child because it's all messed up. But you're speaking about the worst of the scenario, which is not the majority of the scenario, okay? There's going to be, if we look at marriages, collectively 100% of them, on any given day, there's going to be maybe 20% that are just horrible, and it's like, why are you still in there? It's so horrible. He beats the crap out of you, and he abuses you, and you abuse him back, or whatever, all that. And then there's the top maybe 20% that seem to be floating all the time, and it's like, are you really that happy? Is that real? And then there's the majority, that middle point where there's love, there's support, there's family, there's good times, there's bad times, there's growth, there's development, there's spiritual evolution, there's generations of building, there's legacy, you're building empires, whatever you want to look at it as. And there are some good times and some bad times, and you take it all, but you understand that in the grand scheme of things, you're building something very worthwhile. And you're teaching your children to go forward and duplicate that. And that, to me, is building a community, building a society, and teaching people that, or teaching your children that there's value in that. And you're also protecting them, which I believe marriage and family does for a lot of us. Marriage protects the husband when he has a wife. She's his covering. Marriage protects the wife because her husband is his covering, and the extended family. And those two parents collectively protect their children. And again, of course, there's some horrific stories of people who are supposed to be protecting and do the exact opposite. But that's not what we're talking about. We're focusing on the majority. And then another thing is, it's been proven over and over and over again that the best environment for a child to grow up in is to have that male presence and that female presence, because like you said, we were created with specific abilities and roles, and there's a way in which we participate and contribute that matters, whether you're a man or a woman, and children need both. Then when we start to look at facts, and you look at a lot of the things that we're struggling with collectively here in America, in the Black community, is you're going to see that a lot of the things that we complain about are created by not having that covering. The children need two parents. They need that male presence, and they need that female presence. And when it's lacking or it's absent, it does unfortunately create things that we don't want, and we have to face that and accept that it is true that's part of what you're inviting into your life when you reject what has historically worked. What do you think?
I agree. I definitely agree. People, when we get ready to undertake something as large as building a nation, building a family, the word build just seems kind of insignificant, but it is very significant. There's a lot wrapped up in that word build. Just think if you have somebody building something in your house or building a house, you have a team of specialists on all of these different areas. You have a lot of materials. It's just a lot going on when there's building going on. And it can be very chaotic if there's not order and there's not a system and there's not defined roles. So that's why I had to choose marriage as a stable place for me. I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. I had fears and doubts and things before and even through the marriage, but it's something that I would never trade off. So
yeah,
that's all I can say about it.
So, of course, you and I could talk on and on and on, but we do have to, attend to those marriages and those children that we're talking about. So, as usual, it's been a pleasure. And for our viewers out there, this is a segment of Your Black Women where Black women keep it real. And this is Shaquita Graham of Loving the Black Man. And, of course, she started that platform because she felt that there needed to be a voice that really speaks to what a black man is and how to love a black man and to change that image that is often negative. And you can jump in anytime if I'm not saying it right, Shaquita.
Yeah, it's just about highlighting and saluting the extraordinary achievements of the black man and the men of the African diaspora. And it's a way for us to control our narrative as well as give an accurate narrative about who the black man is. And eventually we're going to do loving the black woman, loving the black child, but true to my belief system, we started with the man. So
absolutely. And of course, I am Nomalangam Sally Moses, and I have a blog, The Healthy Black Woman, which you can visit, as well as Successful Black Women. And that's it for now. Take care.